Good morning, guys. Today, as you can tell by the title of this video, the 10 C's of Dave Canterbury, we're going to be talking about the 10 C's concept. Now, I think Dave really had a stroke of brilliance for this, because many people had tried over the years, when you look at all the bushcraft, woodscraft books, and etc., of how to take this much information and put it into that. A simple phrase, something to do that you can easily remember and that will give you a road map that you're supposed to follow. Now, Dave may not have created every component of it, but he's surely the one that brought it to the public eye, and he's surely one that focused it in, because these 10 C's checklist, it's more than just that. I mean, it's a checklist to conquer common challenges. It is a mindset. Each one of these points is a pyramid. It opens up an entire other area to look at. But in the whole, they give you a preparedness, like the old scout motto of be prepared. If you can go down that list with your available gear before you go out the door, you have a prepared set that will at least give you a solid fighting chance. Now, having said that, I've already done one of these videos on the candling device, and if you missed that, that was this past Sunday, I'll put a link up here to it and you can go back and see that video. But today we're going to talk about another one of those, and that is the cloth sail needle. Now, many of you carry, like Dave, carry a great big cloth sail needle up under a piece of duct tape on the back of your seat. And this is a good way to carry it and keep up with it. Just peel it down, and there is that needle right there where I can access it fairly easily. I got good duct tape. Pull that off there. And a great big cloth sail needle. Now, what does that little needle represent? Needles are one of the, if not the most difficult thing to make in the field. Our ancestors truly struggled with this. And you look back at things that they found in archaeology, and they were just lacing stuff, poking holes and having to force thongs through and weave it together to try to make things. But once they figured out how to make a needle out of bone with a small eye in it where they could split down thin sinew, they could make much tighter garments. They could make things that weren't so open and losing body heat or letting the elements in. They could make it actually seal up tight. And so that was a huge innovation. But what can you think of in nature that's that small and yet is that strong? Very, very little. So I want to carry this with me. But each of these 10 C's is beyond just an endorsement of a component. It's part of the construction is the cloth sail needle. And you could argue that cargo tape, cordage, and cloth sail needle could be combined under a C of construction. These are the things that you will carry to the field to allow you to construct other things or repair other things. So the cordage would be something, the cargo tape definitely would be something, and the cloth sail needle would be something. But it's beyond just a sewing implement. It has other components. For example, a long needle like this is handy for digging the meat out of a pecan or of a nut of some kind where I can access it. I can sterilize this in a flame in order to pop some sort of boil or blister or whatever, cleanly, and drain it. This can be used for that. That's something I can't easily say with something else that I can sterilize and then be able to utilize it. If you're spending any time in the field and you're working around gathering firewood, construction, whatever, your hands are going to get full of little bitty splinters. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And you would think something so small I mean, would be just insignificant. I wouldn't, and it will drive you insane when it's in that bend of the finger, or it's between two fingers, or it's up underneath a fingernail. When I was a young man, I went to pick something up one time off of a wooden floor. And when I went to scoop my hands underneath it, I drove a splinter all the way under my fingernail where it came out again, full length. There's nothing I have on me other than a needle can I use to pick and get that splinter out of there. And you have to, because it will fester and will cause other problems. So I've got to be able to get it out. And having a needle makes a difference. But now, does it have to be one? Well, that's the beauty of the 10C system. It's not an endorsement of a single product or of a single component. It's a mindset of what this entails. So I would humbly subject you to a little advancement in this, and the way that I like to carry it in some of my gear. Get you a drinking straw. It's got this paper cover on it. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take the straw out, and you're just simply going to get the paper cover. Now, with this, taking the blunt end of the needle, I'm going to drop it down inside that paper tube, just like that. Now, I'm going to get another needle. I'm going to get a standard sewing needle, something small. I'm going to take some really good, super strong nylon. This is the type like military uses, and it's got like a 40-50 pound breaking strength on this stuff. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make me a thread the needle, and I'm going to make me a loop about 24 inches long. Very small diameter. And then I'm going to turn the needle and spiral it up and down the needle until I get all of that onto it. And I'm going to drop that down that tube as well. I'm going to have 3 needles. A small true sewing needle, tiny. I'm going to have the big cloth sail needle for handling the big jobs. And then I'm going to have one of the large eye canvas lacing needles, because that is what you use whenever you're trying to repair sheaths and things like that, to get a pretty good piece of cord to retrace where my stitching's become split and I've got to repair this or it's just going to fall apart. I can trace through the original holes with that lacing needle. See? The big eye needle that you've already seen that I've talked about, the cargo needle, that will be utilized for the big coarse things, as well as using it as a probe, a tool that I can then pick apart that meat or get into those tiny little crevices or whatever that I've got to and get out, or dig a big splinter out of me. The small sewing needle with a section of thread already attached allows me to repair some piece of gear, or worse come to worse, stitch me up to get me back to where I can get to real medical attention, where I've got to pull this tight, and I know I'm going to be using cargo tape for a butterfly bandage, but I need to hold this together, because it's not a clean cut but a jagged. I need to keep this flat, because as I move it's going to pull apart. Being able to put like 2 tacks of thread in there and then make a bandage and then use the cargo tape as a hard tight field dressing would be an advantage. Trust me, it'll be a big advantage. So I'm going to put them inside that little tube. Now I'm going to put that little tube underneath my piece of cargo tape, and I'm going to put it to the back of my sheath. Now why the piece of tubing? It keeps the thread from getting coated with the adhesive of the duct tape, making it tough to pull it through something. Might even break a thin thread trying to pull it through. When you pull out the cargo needle that's just been stuck to the tape, it's going to have tape on it, tape adhesive. And so I have to, fold a piece of shirt or something and rub to get it off there to make it smooth again so it will go in and out cleanly. But by putting it inside that tube, I can pull it out, it's clean and ready to go right now. And that makes a big advantage. Now, another advantage, instead of the paper straw, look around and sometimes you have those clear plastic covers. Even better, because now I've got a waterproof. Because yes, that duct tape is good. What happens if that sheath gets wet? Will the needle rust? if the sheath gets wet, it's riding on me and I'm sopping with sweat, and hour after hour, will this leather, if it's not that type of leather, absorb the sweat and transfer it to that needle and therefore rust the needle without my knowledge? So that when I need it, I pull it out and I got a rusty needle. I take that clear plastic straw tube and drop it in there. Now I've got a barrier to keep that from rusting. See, so that's my little 2 cents on it, a way to throw it. So, let's finish up this let's finish up this cloth sail needle. The cloth sail needle is the small component that we utilize that is something we cannot easily fabricate in the field. That small steel implement that I can use for first aid. I can use it as a tool for picking meat out or to get whatever anything, marrow out of bone. I've gone in a 360 and cut the marrow out of a narrow diameter bone with that to put in stews and things. I can use it as a repair tool to repair my gear. I can use it, especially if I'm using a big eye needle and I'm using the little bitty already set up thread needle. I have multiple options here by what I'm carrying to be able to repair my gear. Many people say, well, it's not that big a deal if you get a hole in a piece of gear. It can be, especially when you're out and it's a long way back home. I slid down a bank, excuse me, one time, pine straw. I'm going along the edge of the bank and I meant to come down here. My feet went out from under me and I went down. And a sharp broke off stick hooked the back of my pants and ripped my pants that far up, about that long. Well, now every bug, every insect, everything found its way into that pair of pants. You wouldn't think it would, but it did. And it was driving me nuts in the bugs eating me alive of getting into that leg. So I had to repair it in the field. So I had to improvise some way of lacing it together. Of course, the pants were trashed when I got home. I had to throw them away. But when you're in the middle of nowhere and it's 25 miles back to the car, you got to repair. And so that's what this 10C is talking about. It's that small construction / repair capability that you need in the field. So the cloth sail needle absolutely fills that niche. Now, the other parts of the construction of the cargo tape and the cordage we'll be dealing in a future video. But for today, I want you to consider how that piece of gear right there, that cloth sail needle, all the things that you could not fabricate that would do that, the jobs that needle can make your life so much better by simply having it, of first aid, using it as a tool, using it as a scribe to mark things, being able to heat it up and burn a hole through a piece of leather if you had to. Many, many things you can do with just a little bitty needle. Hope this gives you an idea, guys. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And I will be doing the rest of the 10Cs in the next week or so. One per unit. And give you my little 2 cents. I hope you enjoy it. It's not in any way, and I don't want anybody to say that, I'm not in any way challenging Dave. I'm a fan of Dave Canterbury. He has created something that I feel 100 years from now, they're still going to be referring to it as the 10Cs. That was the true innovation right there. If someone focused it, well, Dave Canterbury was that, and hats off to you, sir. You did a fantastic job. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Please leave any questions or comments down below, and I will be going over the rest of the 10Cs in videos very shortly, one at a time, covering each one of them and giving you my little 2 cents of how my gear and how my mindset is following the teachings, the line that Dave Canterbury has laid down. It's a really good system, and it's a great way to have a checklist to conquer common challenges. I really think it's the way to go. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.